Jamaica at risk. NIA head says failure to fully appoint Chief Justice threatens improvements on corruption index. Good evening and welcome to Primetime News on air and online at onespotmedia.com. I'm Doreen Samuels. Also this evening, how much longer? TVJ counts down days to appointment of Chief Justice. Not pleased, Bank of Jamaica expresses displeasure over slow reduction in interest rates. Make a united push. A reparation commission calls on region to pressure Europe to compensate descendants of slaves. It's not enough. Major roadway to begin in St. Thomas, but MP questions its adequacy. And in business news, it's not our business. BOJ governor sidesteps questions on death of banking services bill. There's also sports commentary and weather in this newscast, but before the break, the feedback question. We're asking this evening, are you concerned that it is taking too long to fully appoint Brian Sykes as the Chief Justice of Jamaica? Share comments online, facebook.com/Television Jamaica, and tweet us at Television Jam. Stay with us. Primetime News returns after this break.
Welcome back to Primetime News and a special welcome to our viewers on onespotmedia.com.
Corruption watchdog and National Integrity Action NIA is warning this evening that Jamaica's failure to fully appoint the Chief Justice may negatively affect how the country is perceived when it comes to corruption.
The warning comes as Jamaica records an improvement on the Corruption Perception Index 2017. The index is produced by global civil society organization Transparency International. TVJ's Andrea Chisholm reports.
Jamaica is now ranked 68 of 180 countries on the 2017 Corruption Perception Index, moving up 15 places from the 2016 ranking of 83 when 176 countries were featured. Good news for the National Integrity Action NIA.
Jamaica's 2017 score is now on par with the Americas and marginally above the global average. In reviewing the historical record, this performance appears to be the best in score and rank over the last 10 years.
So what contributed to Jamaica's improvement? Included in that list was the Integrity Commission bill being passed in both houses of Parliament. A new board was put in place at the Firearm Licensing Authority amidst allegations of corruption, and the regulations were approved to guide the registration of political parties and campaign financing. Nonetheless, this warning.
There is absolutely no time for self-congratulation nor complacency. Jamaica still remains among the ranks of the corrupt two-thirds of the world's countries whose scores are under the halfway mark of 50 out of 0 to 100.
Already there's a threat.
Internationally, the Jamaican judiciary, particularly the independence of the judiciary, is ranked in the top quartile. 140 countries, we are in the top 25%. We need to make it clear to whomsoever it is not clear that further delay in the full appointment of the Chief Justice can seriously erode the gains made in the Corruption Perception Index of 2017.
A release from the Office of the Prime Minister on February 13 said the Prime Minister would recommend the appointment of the Chief Justice at an appropriate time. Brian Sykes is currently acting in the position. In the meantime, the NIA wants Jamaica to tick off more accomplishments on the to-do list. For example, strengthening institutions that work to combat organized crime and the judiciary making full use of sentencing guidelines.
To administer consistent and exemplary custodial sentences to the corrupt. Call on the government to provide the resources necessary to facilitate greater efficiency in the justice system, notably in the handing down of timely judgments.
The NIA is also calling for the political code of conduct to be enshrined in law and for all sectors of society to work together to stamp out corruption. Andrea Chisholm, TVJ News.
In the meantime, today marks 20 days or 3 weeks since Justice Brian Sykes was appointed to act as Chief Justice until further notice. Justice Sykes was appointed on February 1, with the Prime Minister coming under fire for comments which suggested the head of the Supreme Court was being placed on probation. Since then, the government has indicated that Mr. Sykes will be appointed permanently to the post. It is now 8 days since that announcement was made. This evening, TVJ News is asking the government, is the paperwork to facilitate the appointment completed, and has a date been set to complete the process, 20 days after the initial appointment?
And the National Integrity Action is urging the government to move quickly to appoint the commissioners of the Integrity Commission and establish the Major Organized Crime and Anti-Corruption Agency, MOCA, as an independent body. The MOCA Act has been passed in the lower house and is now before the Senate.
To ensure that they are led by persons of impeccable integrity, provided with adequate resources, and absolutely free from political interference, thereby enabling these and other bodies to challenge more effectively the continued impunity in this country of the well-connected.
Justice Minister Delroy Chuck reiterated that the Auditor General will be a commissioner of the Integrity Commission.
To the best of my knowledge, there will be at least 2 retired judges, Court of Appeal judges, my recollection, and 2 other persons of high integrity. It has been on my desk for the past 2 weeks, the notice to bring the act into operation. I just need to put in a date. But I can't do that until the Governor General announces the 5 commissioners. I did get the feeling that it would have been done this week, and that is in short order.
The Bank of Jamaica says it is not pleased with the pace at which financial institutions are reducing interest rates to borrowers. The comments come after the central bank cut its policy rate on Tuesday. TVJ's Dashan Hendricks reports.
The Bank of Jamaica has been cutting its so-called policy rate. It fell 3 times in the last 3 months. On Tuesday, the rate fell to 2.75%. The central bank saying the cuts are in line with its forecast that consumer prices will not exceed its target range of 4 to 6% over the next 2 years. The lower end of the range is more likely. The cut in the rate is to push financial institutions to cut their own rates to consumers and investors, the ultimate aim being to stimulate the economy, which has been sluggish. But interest rates have not been falling in line with the BOJ's action. Is the central bank pleased?
No, we're not. And it's not just about the timing of the pass-through, but also the magnitude. And that is with respect to lending rates. Now, there are a number of reasons why this holds.
The central bank admits it takes up to 3 months for cuts in its policy rates to reach the market in lending rates.
We've found that credit growth is important to economic growth. There are 2 components of credit growth. That is credit that goes directly to the various productive sectors. And we've certainly seen some correlation between credit growth to a number of these sectors and the actual GDP or value added from these sectors.
Despite banks being slow to reduce interest rates to those who borrow to invest, the central bank says it will continue to cut its rate as it seeks to push growth in the economy. However, it says it is ready to change course if by cutting rates, inflation threatens to overshoot its target. It also urges Jamaicans to stop obsessing over the value of the currency, especially since in recent times, the dollar is not only losing value, but also recording gains. Focus, it said, should instead be on inflation because any movement in the value of the dollar will be reflected in the general price level.
Two-way movements in the exchange rate also mean that the pass-through from depreciation to prices is more and more muted.
Dashan Hendricks, TVJ News.
The cost of repairing buses at the Jamaica Urban Transit Company JUTC continues to be of concern, especially with the company projected to suffer a $7 billion loss in the upcoming fiscal year. Buses on the Portmore-St. Catherine route feature prominently among those costing a tidy sum for repairs. But there is optimism things will change. TVJ's Herman Green reports.
Financial loss for the JUTC for the current fiscal year is estimated to be $3.16 billion. It's expected to be even higher next fiscal year as fuel and toll charges are expected to rise. But repairs and maintenance of its buses and depots alone is expected to increase to over $2 billion. General Manager for Depot Operations in Portmore, Neville Francis, admits that repair cost is a challenge, but he's optimistic.
Damage to buses are twofold. One, accident. As it is now, we are less than 15 accidents for the month. In fact, if you look at accident per kilometer, last month we have one accident in every 35,000 kilometers. Bear in mind that the international standard is one in every 50. So we are not doing badly there.
The second issue he highlighted is damage to the buses from stone-throwing incidents last year. He says this calendar year has been better so far, as there have been only 2 such incidents since January 1.
But we have been working with the police, 100-man police, and other police in close proximity to try and see how best we can stem that problem. Repair of those glasses are currently being done by the central maintenance. It is very costly to repair those glasses, as you know. But so far, I think if the trend holds, then we will have less accidents, stone throwing this year than last year.
There were approximately 40 such incidents in 2017, which averages just over 3 each month. Mr. Francis says currently, of the 145 buses in the fleet, 135 are sent out on routes each day. As for repairing the others, he says those parts are sourced through the JUTC's head offices.
In fact, just today I was advised that there are a number of VDL parts on the wharf, the wharf to be cleared. As well as we have just recently got a shipment of parts. So parts are steadily coming in, which will give us more leeway to provide more buses for the traveling public.
Apart from the Portmore routes, stone throwing and arson incidents were also prevalent last year in Macook's Pen and Central Village in St. Catherine, as well as in Augusttown and sections of Washington Boulevard in St. Andrew. Herman Green, TVJ News.
A top story today, Jamaica at risk. NIA head says failure to fully appoint Chief Justice threatens improvements on corruption index. And still ahead, a Make a United push. Reparation Commission calls on region to pressure Europe to compensate descendants of slaves. And in the business day, it's not our business. BOJ governor sidesteps questions on death of banking services bill. We'll be right back.
Levels and doesn't compromise the staff, but again, Dion, it's a very difficult situation. From time to time, you may seal off a particular area, and because of the connectivity between buildings from the roof or otherwise, you do have some levels of exposure. And I suspect that is what had occurred.
The CARICOM reparation is lobbying Caribbean governments to again make a case for financial compensation from Europe for crimes committed during and after slavery. Commission Chairman Professor Sir Hilary Beckles has detailed new evidence, he says, proves that Britain has even committed an economic crime by trying to cover up that it only 3 years ago it finished repaying slavery loan bonds. TVJ's Krista Campbell explains.
For me, it is the greatest act of political immorality in my time.
University of the West Indies Professor Sir Hilary Beckles, who is also chairman of the commission set up to facilitate financial compensation from Europe for atrocities committed against Africans during slavery. At a media conference at the UWI on Wednesday, Sir Hilary disclosed new evidence he says would put an end to what has been considered a stalemate between the Caribbean and Europe on the matter of reparation. After years of Britain's insistence that slavery was a thing of the distant past, which it was not obligated to compensate for, chairman of the CARICOM Reparation Commission unveiled this.
When Prime Minister Cameron spoke in the Jamaica Parliament, he was aware that the Bank of England and the Treasury Department were still paying those persons who held the bonds on the slavery loans. This transfer of public money to the private holders of the slave bond makes it a present-day activity.
He was making reference to the British Prime Minister David Cameron's presentation in the Jamaican Parliament in September 2015. Sir Hilary says it is not only upsetting that since 1835, Britain only paid slave owners 20 of the £47 million owed to the actual slaves, but that the slaves themselves had to repay the remaining £27 million in free labour to the British government. And, as the Commission chair points out, the very descendants of slaves have also been made to pay.
Just to imagine that your family, my family, working in Britain, in the factories, on the buses, on the trains, their taxes have been used to pay the slave owners until 3 years ago.
But he says Britain did not stop there, transferring wealth from the Caribbean to Britain and leaving the region in an impoverished state, which he says the Reparation Commission is also demanding that Britain address by leaving a development program in the region.
Each time the British economy got into trouble, they reopened the slave loan, borrowed more money against it, got the cash, reinvested in the economy, and kept going.
So, with the new evidence to substantiate the region's right to reparation, the Commission says it's now lobbying all Caribbean governments to take a united stance to push European leaders to change their positions and pay the compensation. Krista Campbell, TVJ News.
Hundreds of Jamaicans battling cancer could soon have access to a locally produced drug said to make living with the disease much easier. Local researcher at the University of Technology, Dr. Lawrence Williams, says he is in the final stages of introducing the drug called DTS to the local market. It has been developed after 28 years of research on the properties of the Jamaican guinea hen weed. Dr. Williams was speaking at RGR Gleaner's latest news forum on Monday. TVJ's Kalisha Williams reports.
Meet Dr. Lawrence Williams, adjunct professor in the College of Health Sciences at the University of Technology, the man who made a major breakthrough in science by using elements of the guinea hen weed to fight cancer. It's a plant used by many Jamaicans to treat a variety of ailments. A year after landing the patent with the United States co-researcher George Levy to study the anti-cancer activity of the plant, Dr. Williams said a drug developed from it called DTS will be available on the local market by the end of 2018.
We are now ordering the compound from, there's a company in Canada that synthesizes it. It can be made very easy. There's no serious stereochemistry in the molecule, so you cannot make mistake in the synthesis. Unlike other natural products that you have so many stereo centers and so on. So we are going to buy it from Canada and then start the clinical trials.
He said it means that people living with cancer could improve their chances of living longer. Dr. Williams is also hoping that the advent of the drug will make patients less dependent on high doses of cancer medication. He points out that DTS has proven effective in treating 12 different types of cancers.
When you find something like that, you wonder if it will kill healthy cells also. And what we did, we check it on non-cancerous cells and for safe for non-cancerous cells. It seems to be it's an intelligent molecule. It only goes for pathological condition and pathological cells.
While highlighting that he has received several offers from international buyers, Dr. Williams stressed the importance of maintaining ownership of the product.
Big pharma companies, if you sell something like that, obviously they're going to kill it. They're going to put it on the shelf and don't put it to market. Because they are not in the business of finding cure for diseases. And the local company, they want money and they want fame. So I think they will put it on the market.
Kalisha Williams, TVJ News.
Major roadwork has begun in sections of St. Thomas, but there are questions this evening about the scope of the project. Member of Parliament for St. Thomas Weston, James Robertson, expressed his concerns at a town hall meeting at the Lloyd's Testament Church in the parish on Tuesday night.
Residents of St. Thomas and the National Works Agency have been at odds in recent times over the poor road condition in the parish, which has been made worse due to heavy rains. The NWA has, however, launched a road rehabilitation project from Yallas to Low Mountain. At a town hall meeting Tuesday night, residents were informed that the project will cost $195 million, but some feel that it's not enough to cover other critical areas.
We're here to implement this project, knowing fully well that the punch list does not include all that some of you would love to see. I would certainly love to see a new bridge down the road, but hey, we don't have the funding in place to put that in at this time.
But for Member of Parliament for West St. Thomas, James Robertson, bridges should have been a key part of the project. He explained that many of them are dilapidated, presenting serious safety concerns.
That $195 million has nowhere in it for a new bridge. down here.
He says he's disappointed too that two major thoroughfares will not be fixed under the program.
Lloyd's to Ayers Valley, Lloyd's, Lockwood. They are not in the book either. But I'm already trying to say to them, give us 10 million, 12 million out of the 195 and put it into Lockwood. Give us 5, 10, 15 million out of it and put it into Ayers Valley.
The project is part of a $4.8 billion island-wide road rehabilitation program. Work has already begun in St. Thomas, where the project is slated to be completed in 6 months. A day after one of the oldest churches in Jamaica was destroyed by fire, the St. Anne Fire Brigade is still trying to determine what could have caused the blaze. Church members who are still in shock are now counting their losses. They will also have to worship elsewhere come Sunday, as TVJ Shamela Mitchell now reports.
Pitch black now greets us at the St. Anne's Bay Methodist Church. This follows a fire which started at the church minutes after 1 Tuesday morning. Robert Wilson lives next door to the church. Mr. Wilson is also a church member there. He explained that he had just returned from work when he discovered the church was on fire.
I smell smoke, but I just live right across the street over there. So I hear noise outside. When I came outside, right here, over there was on fire. And crowds started to gather. Then the fire started to spread. Hit this roof here.
Public Relations Officer at the Jamaica Fire Brigade, Emilio Ibang, says they received a telephone call minutes after 2 that morning. Mr. Ibang says 3 units responded. Despite the efforts, nothing was saved.
When we look at a building like this, we have to take into consideration all the things, the kind of material that constructs a building. If you look inside there, you'll realize just a few of the rafters, the remains of a few of the rafters, you couldn't even tell if it was a church if you just went inside there.
He could not give an estimate of the damage, but church members have already started to count their losses.
They're just 4 walls standing. 4 walls standing, well, God knows why. 4 walls and the office. The office was not touched at all. All the documents, computers, everything are intact. But the church itself, everything is gone.
Pipe organ, very expensive pipe organ, over 100 years old. We treasure that organ, and it's really hard to see it go. But then, what can we say?
It's a loss which is not only physical in terms of the building, but it's also a loss in terms of the people's sense of who they are, because this church has meant so much to people. Children who have grown up and known this place. So it's a loss in the sense that they part of them are gone. Because this has been part of their lives for so many years.
They remain hopeful.
We are resilient people, and we are going to build again, and we are going to come back strong. When tragedy like this do happen, it brings us closer together. And we are going to build, and we are going to come back strong again.
The church was insured. Shamela Mitchell, TVJ News.
While the police continue to struggle with getting information from people who may have witnessed a crime, one senior police officer is arguing this evening that informer fided perception is but a scare tactic used by criminals. Head of the JCF's Community Safety and Security Branch, SSP Steve McGregor, was addressing members of the National Neighborhood Watch organization on the weekend. TVJ's Krista Campbell reports.
There is nothing that a bad man, a criminal, is afraid of like social sanction. I'm afraid of that than even we, the police.
Senior Superintendent of Police Steve McGregor assuring Neighborhood Watch area leaders that they have more powers to stop the spate of criminality gripping the country than any national initiative can. And to explain what he termed social sanctions, he referred to the practice of parties being held for criminals in their communities after they've served time behind bars.
When I was a boy in Moortown, Portland, if you commit a crime and go serve time, you can't come back in the community. You know why? The community don't want you back there. It must not feel safe. in the community, he must be wondering if the people of the community are with him or not. When him a wonder that way, as the old people would have said, but I'm going to twet.
Turning to the informer culture, SSP McGregor notes that the fear of giving police information on crimes is used to keep residents afraid and criminals from getting caught. In fact, he notes that oftentimes, after confiding in the police, some persons end up telling at least one other person, and that person tells someone else, sometimes the very perpetrator or a close affiliate, and the police are blamed.
Generally speaking, it doesn't go back to no criminal. Police aren't telling no criminal nothing, let them tell you. That is what they want you to have in your mind so that you don't say anything. We all have somebody criminal in our family, you know. How that sound? Yes, but nothing wrong with that because you don't have no general control over that. You know what is wrong with that? When the question is asked, what have you done about that? Invariably, the answer is nothing, you know. But you expect we, the police, like magicians, for just come find out, say, you have one thief in brother or sister or cousin or man or auntie. You see how unfair you are?
He's urging everyone to look at the roles each can play to help fight crime, reminding the community leaders that there are far more good persons than there are criminals. Krista Campbell, TVJ News.
In this evening's edition of the Health Report, Shamela Mitchell looks at schizophrenia. One local expert says the condition is quite common among the young population. However, it is preventable.
The most established forms of mental illness in Jamaica is schizophrenia. Consultant psychiatrist Dr. Jeffrey Walcott says at least 1.5% of the Jamaican population will experience some form of the condition.
Schizophrenia is a thought disorder. It's a disorder of thought processing and thought content. In other words, the person's ability to process reality is impaired, so they have erroneous information being registered in the brain, so things like hallucinations, hearing voices, seeing things, and then the actual content that they have is also erroneous, so they have delusions, paranoid thinking. These are fixed false beliefs, not in keeping with the social context or the reality of the situation around them.
Dr. Walcott says anyone can be affected. However, the most common age range is between 15 to 25.
One of the theories is that what you're actually seeing is stress being placed on the prefrontal cortex at that age. So in other words, young people are now developing their prefrontal cortex and they are now moving into a social environment where they have to act with autonomy. And that's the area of the brain that has the dysfunction, the prefrontal cortex area. And so once you add stress to that area, then you start to see the deficits showing itself up. So that's one of the theories as to why it comes up at that age.
Dr. Walcott says the condition can be treated with medication. However, it is also preventable.
And one of the things that we've clearly outlined is that once you have a supportive, emotionally engaging environment for children to grow up in, where we ameliorate psychological trauma, we're able to provide stability, consistency in care and nurturing, that you actually can impact the onset or even the prevalence of the disorder in patients who are even genetically predisposed.
With your health report, I'm Shamela Mitchell wishing you good health.
A reminder that our current affairs program, All Angles, is at 8:30 this evening, and Dion Jackson-Miller is here with a preview. Dion?
Thank you so very much, Doreen. Well, it is our special Reggae Month edition of All Angles, and we have two very different interviews for you. We're going to be talking to Ken Booth, legendary vintage artist. He's still recording, by the way. We're also going to be talking to contemporary dancehall sensation Ding Dong, so make sure you tune in for our Reggae Month special on All Angles, coming up right after Primetime News. Right now, it's back to you.
Thank you, Dion. And we now go to Janella at the Smart Board for comments from those on social media.
Thank you so much, Doreen. A quick reminder of our feedback question for tonight. We've been asking, are you concerned that it is taking too long to fully appoint Brian Sykes as the Chief Justice of Jamaica? A comment here says, nope, not concerned. I'm more concerned about the long time it takes for justice to be delivered in the courts. Another comment says, another case where politics has blindfolded Jamaicans if and when they appoint him. I hope the justice system reaps some benefit. Another comment says, think it's time they sort out this issue. Either appoint him or find someone else. Time to move on. Another one says, nope, because by the way, what is the great urgency? There is an acting commissioner of police, and now that isn't stopping anything from taking place. And finally, This other comment says this matter has been dragging on for way too long. Either you appoint him or find someone else. Now keep those comments coming on Facebook and Twitter. Facebook.com/Television Jamaica and tweet us at Television Jam. The Business Day and news from overseas.